He said, pray as you see me pray. Utter these words that you hear me say. Based on the Sunnah, worship Him, just follow them.
Assalamu alaikum. New class coming to you every Monday and Wednesdays, taught by Ustad Layla Nashiba, the fiqh of prayer. Every Monday and Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Inshallah, we'll see you there. Streaming on all major platforms. Channel Sunnahfollowers.
Alhamdulillah. Wa salam Allah wa rasulullah. Alhamdulillah. Today we're going to continue our topic of how to pray, and we completed discussion of purity. We talked about wudu, we talked about ghusl, we talked about tayammum the other day. Today we're going to go over the rules of menses. And this should be a great class for a lot of you sisters, because unfortunately a lot of you women are preying on your menses, and this is a sacrilege. Oh yeah, we're doing so many things we're not supposed to do as Muslims. The average Muslim woman is preying on her period, and we don't understand that when we do that, we have the curse of Allah on us. So let's put the PowerPoint up on the screen, and we'll go over all of this. I'm going to give you guys all the hadiths with all the dalil. And every time I teach this class, even though I give y'all the proof, you still refuse to listen and pray on your period. Well, let's go over everything. Okay, let's see. Yeah, hold on for a second. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to be speaking about the rules of menses today. But before I get into that, I'm going to give you guys a brief quiz to cover what we discussed about tayammum. Let's look at this question here. Who can tell me, how do we perform tayammum? How do you make tayammum? Can anybody tell me? Every Muslim should know this answer. How do we make tayammum? What's the procedure? Yes, the people on Twitter. Yes, I can see you. Yeah, type your answer on Twitter too. Yeah, if you want on Twitter, you can type.
First, you have to, if there's absolutely no water available, first you have to find the water. And if you can't find any, you just go to soil, like dirt or sand or rock. You strike your palms on the ground, rub your hands together, and then wipe your face.
What do you guys think about her answer? What do you guys think? Okay, for the people on Twitter, I'm showing you that I can see. Yeah, can y'all see that? See, I am here and I can see. That's me on Twitter, but I can see you without being on it. But that's Twitter. Yeah, so you can type. If you type your answers on Twitter in the chat box, I'll be able to see. Could you guys see before I put it on the screen here? Could y'all see it in the chat box? Okay, but anyway, that's Twitter. Okay, so what do you guys think about her answer? She said you tap the ground with your hand and then rub your hands together and wipe your face. What do you guys think? Anybody in Zoom?
Up to the wrist.
Yes, exactly, guys. You tap the ground, rub your hands together, blow on them, and then wipe the face. Why do we blow on it? Can anybody tell me, why do we blow in our hands before we wipe our face?
Just to get the excess dirt off, so you're not making your face dirty.
Exactly. The prophet said that. And that's from the prophet, guys. The prophet said, tap the ground, rub your hands together, and then blow them and wipe the face. And they asked him, one of the companions asked him, why do we blow? He said, to get the excess dirt off and then wipe your face. Remember, Allah loves cleanliness. Okay. And Allah loves beauty. Okay. So you tap the ground once, rub the hands. Do I have to do it 3 times? Or do I have to do it 2 times? Or can I just tap the ground once? What do y'all think?
Just once.
Yes, just 1 time. Tap the ground with your hands, rub them together, blow, and then wipe the face. Just that simple. Okay, next question. What are the conditions needed to perform tayammum? In other words, can I make tayammum whenever I want? If not, what are the conditions? What are the conditions for tayammum?
Yeah,
Go
there's
ahead.
conditions. So first you have to look for water. I mean, everywhere you go, you have to. And say, for instance, if you're sick or wait.
I just want to know, what are the conditions to make tayammum? I don't want to know about sickness or none of that.
Okay.
What are the conditions needed to make in order to make tayammum, what must exist, in other words?
It must not be no water.
Okay, is that it? Okay, yes, there must be no water around. Exactly, guys, no water around. If there's water, you cannot opt to make tayammum. What else? What type of dirt should I use? Or what do I make tayammum on? What kind of dirt does it have to be?
It needs to be pure soil.
Exactly, pure soil, pure earth, dirt, not dust from your dashboard in your car, because that's not dirt. That's not the soil. Your dashboard in your car is not the ground. What about this? Can it be a rock? Can it be a rock?
Yes, it can.
Yes.
Why?
Because the rock comes from the earth.
Exactly. Because the rock comes from the earth. This comes from the dirt. Exactly. But the dust on your dashboard it doesn't come from the earth. The dust on your dashboard comes from your dead skin, your fingernails, dead flies, and all of that crap. That's not dirt. That's not the ground. Okay, so, you can, anything that's pure soil, that's pure earth. Okay? Everybody understand that? And of course, there must not be no water around, and you have to make the attempt to look for water unless you are unable to. What does that mean? If you're sick and can't go look for water, or if your life is in danger, then you don't have to worry about looking for water. Just go ahead and make the tayammum. What about this? Can I make tayammum over my cast? Say my arm is broken. My hand is broken. Let's say my hand is broken. Can I make tayammum over my hand?
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Can I make it over a cast? Yes, you can. Okay, what if I got a cast on and the doctor tells me not to get it wet? Can I make tayammum over it?
Yes.
Yes. Good job. Okay, so that basically covers tayammum. And it just shows us, what about this? You're out in the mountains camping with your family. All of a sudden the power goes out. You have no water. You and your husband have had sexual relations. but there's no water for you to take a bath with, and you can't go anywhere to find any water because there's bears in the woods. What do? What do?
Then you do tayammum.
Okay, and how do you do it? Do I have to roll my body in the dirt or take the dirt and wash my private parts?
No, you just tap the earth or wipe your face and your hands up to the wrist.
That's it. You just tap the earth, wipe your hands, blow in them, and do the face. That's it. Exactly. No, there's no need to roll around in the grass or any of that. And that happens sometimes. I know a lot of Muslims who were in those situations. They were out in the cabins, you know, and up in the mountains, the Smoky Mountains, and they had a power outage, no water, and the bears come out at night. You ain't going out there in them woods trying to find no water with them bears out there. So you make tayammum and keep it moving. Okay, if I made my prayer with tayammum, and then I come and find some water, do I have to make the prayer over?
No, as long as you didn't break it.
No, I don't have to make the prayer over. Good job. What about this? I got tayammum. I made tayammum. But now I come upon water and it's time to pray the next prayer. Do I have to make wudu if I did not do anything to break my tayammum?
No, you don't have to.
Good job. No, you don't have to. So I can go the whole day, even though I'm around water now. I don't have to redo a wudu if I had tayammum done according to the proper conditions. Is that clear to everybody? Does everybody understand that? Any questions about tayammum? Any questions about tayammum? Okay, now we're going to get to the nitty gritty. We're going to talk about menses and how you sisters going to have to stop praying on your periods. First of all, in Arabic, the word for menses is hayd, and it literally means running, running. But when we use it in this sense, we're referring to the discharge of blood during a woman's state of health, not from giving birth or breaking the hymen. And that's important because sometimes if a girl's hymen is broke, she will bleed. Okay, that's not a menses. Okay, when we have a baby, that's something different too, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And also, most of the scholars agree that a girl can start a menses anywhere from the age of 9 up. Anywhere from the age of 9. Okay, if a girl has a menses before the age of 9, because that happens. Some girls may be 7 or 8 years old and they may bleed. That's not considered a menses. That's just considered to be putrid blood, probably to prepare her body preparing itself for menses. Okay, so if your daughter has a menses and she's below the age of 8, it's not a menses. I mean, below the age of 9, it's not a menses. But if she's 9 years old or older, it is considered a menses. Does everybody understand that? And that's what all the scholars agree upon. That means all the companions agreed upon that too. Okay? And there is no hadith on this planet, nor any verse of the Quran that speaks about a woman stopping her period. So if a woman's menses stops and she's an elderly woman, but then she finds blood coming out of her, it's considered a menses. Say, for example, you went through menopause. I'm not talking about a hysterectomy. But say, for example, you went through menopause at the age of 50 and your period stopped at the age of 60. And then you haven't had a menses in 10 years, but now you 70 years old and you find that you on your period. That happens to a lot of women. Guess what? That's your period. That's a menses. And you treat it as a menses. Again, as long as you haven't had a hysterectomy. If you had a hysterectomy, you don't have anything up in there. A complete hysterectomy, don't have anything up there. You won't experience no bleeding at all, to be honest. Ain't nothing for blood to come out of. Okay. But if you went through menopause at the age of 50 and you haven't had a period and then all of a sudden one day you start bleeding, that's to be treated as a menses. Do you women understand that? Because I had a woman contact me 3 weeks ago at my Q&A show. She went through menopause and she didn't have a period. And then all of a sudden she started bleeding and she asked me that question 15, 20 times. And I had to tell her, it's a menses. Okay? You do not prey on your menses, women. Okay, so, and just like I've told you guys, a lot of Muslims commit sins because we don't understand the meaning of English words that we speak. A lot of women prey on their menses because they don't know what a menses is. Okay, the Prophet Muhammad told us that a woman's period is not determined by her age. That's why I say I don't care if you 80 years old. If you got blood coming out of you, you're on your menses, sisters. It don't matter if you 100 years old. You're on your menses. The Prophet said a menses is not determined by your age. It's not determined by days. It doesn't matter if you bled a week ago and it stopped and now it's bleeding again. The Prophet said that a menses is determined by the color of the blood. The color of your blood. We have this authentic hadith, and what's the source? Sahih Bukhari. So you can't get no better than that except for the Quran. We have one of the companions, female companions, Fatima, the daughter of Abu Habish. She had a blood flow. And the Prophet told her to look at the color of the blood. He said, if it's your menses, you can tell from the color of it. If it's dark and recognizable, that's your menses. And if you can recognize it's the menses because of the color of the blood, then don't pray. And she was a woman that her period started and it just didn't stop. It kept on. He said, so look at the color of the blood. And again, this is the color that determines if you're on your menses. Number one, if it's dark. If whatever blood is coming out of you is dark, it's a menses. Also, if it's red, if the blood is the color of red, then that's a menses. Also, if the color of the blood is yellow, then that's a menses. Also, if the color of the blood is muddy, that means it's in between black and white. It's the color of dirt. That's a menses. And this is based on authentic hadith, including Imam Bukhari. And they tell us that Aisha, the women, even though the Prophet explained this to the women, just like women are hard-headed today, I tell you sisters all the time, I don't care if you are 110 years old. If you bleeding down there, you're on your period. If the blood is dark or red or yellow or muddy, you on your period. The same way the women don't listen to me, they didn't want to listen to the prophet. So they kept sending Aisha boxes with stained cotton, and she kept telling them, look, y'all got to stop this. You're still on your period. It's when you stick the cotton in and it comes out clear that the period is over. So the yellow that comes out of you, sisters, as you're bleeding, that's your period. The muddy color that's coming out of you is your period. The black color, the brown color, the red color, the pink color. You look at the color, not how many days. Every woman is different. Some women bleed for 2 weeks. I did. I used to bleed for 14 days. Some women bleed for 1 day. My granddaughter does for just 1 day. Some women bleed for 5 days. So that's why the prophet said it has nothing to do with your age. It has nothing to do with the amount of days. It's all the color. Look at the color of the blood. Now, once your period comes to a complete stop, that means nothing is coming out of you. Let's just say your period has ended. You can stick a piece of tissue up you and it comes out white, clear. And then 3 or 4 days later, 3 or 4 days later, you see that yellow or that muddy discharge. That's okay. That's nothing. That's just the body cleansing itself. But again, the period has to have come to a complete stop. And you don't rush it. Do you sisters understand? Because sometimes after our menses, after it stops, maybe a day or 2 later, you will see that yellow. It won't be red. It won't be pink. It won't be dark. It won't be brown. It'll be yellow. That little yellow stuff is just considered a discharge. That's the leftover of your body cleansing itself. So that's not part of your period. Am I clear? Before I go any further, do you women see this authentic hadith? Do y'all see that I'm not making this up? This is Sahih Bukhari. I don't care what Imam Hanafi told you, which he didn't tell you nothing. I don't care what Imam Malik said. I don't care what Ibn Taymiyyah said. I don't care what Imam Nawawi said. Don't nobody on this planet overrule the Prophet Muhammad. That goes for the people that came after him. Y'all understand that? So don't tell me what Ibn Taymiyyah, Imam Nawawi, Ibn Kathir, Imam Malik, or anybody else said. This hadith seals the subject. So when you women are 50 and 60 and 70 years old and you call me up and say, Layla, my period started, but is this istihada? No, you don't know what istihada is. That's your period. Look at the color. Is it dark? Is it red? Is it pink? Is it yellow? Is it muddy? Yes, then that's your period. Okay, do you sisters get it? And there's the source, Bukhari and a whole bunch of other hadiths. But y'all know me, I deal with Bukhari. Any questions in Zoom? Y'all awful quiet. Okay. And again, there is no minimum or maximum length of time for your menses. Anybody that tells you, Imam Hanafi said that the maximum amount of days to bleed is 10. Who is he? I'm sorry. Any statements dealing with this topic have no, I repeat, have no authentic backing. And by the way, Imam Hanafi didn't say that. It was the student of Imam Hanafi students and students. They lie on Imam Hanafi all the time. Okay? People lie on him all the time. So any statements dealing with the amount of days a woman can bleed are not authentic. There's nothing from the Quran nor the authentic hadith of the Prophet that puts a minimum or a maximum on the amount of days a woman bleeds, because all women are different and our bodies. I'm going through anxiety right now. If I had a menses, I would be on my menses. My menses used to come on at the blink of a hat. If I changed my diet, I would start bleeding. If I started a new job, I would bleed. A woman's body changes through her emotions, and our menses changes. Fasting. My menses always change when I fasted Ramadan. When I made Hajj, it changed. So anybody that tells you that there's a minimum or maximum length of time, they don't know what they're talking about. Listen to what Salama said. She was the wife of the Prophet. She asked the Prophet about a woman who started bleeding and the bleeding didn't stop. He said, if you are a woman and you start bleeding and you're bleeding on and on and on, then look at your regular days. Because again, our bodies can be thrown off due to anxiety, stress, emotions, war, whatever. He said, what are your is your norm? Well, my norm is 14 days. He said, then look at your norm and look at the color of the blood that's coming out of you. Look at it. And also the smell, also the clots. If you don't, bottom line, sisters, if you don't feel comfortable worshiping your Lord because you feel unclean, then you stay away from praying. But if you started bleeding and it's going on and it's light, it's maybe a pink color, but it's not like a regular menses, then you tie yourself up and pray. But very few of you sisters fall in that category. From what you women be asking me, you sisters are on your periods because you ain't doing no pink clean stuff. Again, the prophet said, look at the different types of blood. If it's dark, if it's red, if it's pink, if it's yellow, if it's a soil color, then don't pray. Does everybody understand that? Any questions about this? Let me give you sisters an example. I had fibroids. One time my menses started and it didn't stop. I bled past 30 days. I went straight to the doctor, because whenever you women are bleeding longer than 30 days, go to a doctor, because usually that's a sign, like the prophet said, of a broken vein or cancer. So I went to the doctor, and that's when they diagnosed me with fibroids. I bled for 4 months before they gave me a hysterectomy to remove them. And did I pray during that 4 months? No, I did not. Because of the color of the blood, it was black. Okay? So I did not pray at all during those 4 months, because I knew that this was a menses, it was not clean, and I was not going to stand before my Lord that way. Okay? So you look at the color of the blood, sisters. You do not want to pray on your period, because the prophet said any woman that prays on her period has the curse of Allah on her. And I'd rather obey Allah than have him curse me, like he's going to do a lot of y'all who did this voting. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna throw that voting up at you every time. All right. Now we're going to talk about post-childhood bleeding. This occurs after having a baby, whether the baby survived or not. And this type of bleeding also has no minimum duration, because for some women, when I had my daughter, I only bled for 2 weeks. That's it. I bled for just 2 weeks after I had my daughter. Some women bleed the whole 40 days. Some women only bleed 5 days. So there's no minimum, but there is a maximum. The maximum amount of days is 40, but there are no minimums. As Salama, the wife of the prophet, said, during the lifetime of the prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the post-childbirth woman would be confined for 40 days. But again, if your menses ended before that, if the bleeding ended before those 40 days were up, then you go ahead and take a ghusl and you begin your prayers. And just to let the new sisters know, you do not have to make up your prayers because of your menses. When I bled for 4 months, I didn't have to make those prayers up. Well, because why would Allah have you make up something that you're not held accountable for? It doesn't make sense. And our Lord, like we talked about earlier today, Allah is just. He is not unjust. And so now what I'm going to do is speak about things that we cannot do when we're on our menses. The same thing, all acts forbidden for a person who has not yet cleansed himself from having relations or a wet dream are forbidden to women in these two conditions as they are there. So in other words, again, a woman can also not have, you cannot have sex on your menses with your husband. If your husband tries to get you to have sex with him, you tell him, heck no, and he cannot make you. He cannot make you. Remember, we obey our husbands only in the things that Allah commanded us to obey him in. Allah did not command us to obey our husbands if they try to get us to do something that's haram. You tell him, no, we ain't doing that. Okay. Also, not only can you not pray when you're on your menses, but you cannot fast either. No fasting. No fasting. If you fast, it's considered null and void. Okay. We have a hadith where a person asked Aisha. He said, I asked Aisha, why must we women make up the fast missed during our menses, but we don't have to make up our prayers? And Aisha said that was what the Prophet of Allah told us to do. We were ordered to make up the fast and we were ordered to not make up the prayers. So there's that evidence. So if it's Ramadan and you start your menses, or if you had a baby, that was another question asked last week. If you had a baby, okay, and you were unable to make up those days. And I'm going to talk about that with you, sisters. You asked the brothers that, and they were right. You don't have to. You have to make up the days that you were unable to fast because of the menses. But that's why you need to ask a woman. Unless you are breastfeeding. If a woman is breastfeeding, you pay the ransom. See why y'all need to ask me? instead of asking the brothers. Did you sisters understand what I'm saying? If you had a baby during the month of Ramadan and your period started, do you have to make them days up? Yes, as far as fasting, unless you were breastfeeding. Women that are breastfeeding fall in the category of paying the ransom. Y'all should have asked me, and you didn't. Okay? So, but if I'm not right, but if you're not breastfeeding, yes, you have to make them days up, baby cakes. So if you're breastfeeding them babies, ransom, pay the ransom for the days. You got it? You understand, sister? Because you were the one that asked that question, weren't you? Why didn't you ask me? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you should be more specific. And by the way, when you sisters ask these questions, be more specific. You should have told him that you were breastfeeding. If you didn't mention that you were breastfeeding, then of course he's going to give you the right, that his answer was right. But had you told him that you were breastfeeding, he would have told you you fall in the category of the ransom. That's what Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, said. Ibn Abbas and Ibn Umar. They said if a woman is breastfeeding, then she falls in the category of paying the ransom. Should have told him the whole story. When you guys ask these questions, give us the whole information, not just part of it. Okay? All right. So no sexual intercourse when you're on your menses, and no fasting when you're on your menses. You do not have to make up your prayers, but you do have to make up your fast. Is that clear with all the sisters here? Okay. Oh, I already talked about this. And again, if your period starts and it's bleeding and nonstop, again, you look at the color of the blood. You look at the color of the blood. You look at the color of the blood, as the prophet said. If it's dark and recognizable, then stay away from praying. If it's other than that, then you make wudu and pray because it's a broken vein, and go to the doctor to make sure you ain't got cancer. All right. So, any questions or comments? That's all there is to know.